Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. And as they close, just feel any feelings of tension or stress leaving your body in your outward breath. That's right. Breathing in that wonderful feeling of calm and relaxation, and exhaling worries, fears, any stresses or strains. But I want you to imagine, as you breathe in and breathe out, you have a button to control the volume of your own inner dialogue. And I want you to imagine, if you catch your inner dialogue saying wonderful things that make you feel grateful, calm and appreciative, just imagine turning that volume up, hearing it in 3D surround sound, and feeling wonderful. And let's try that now. I want you to think of just one thing you feel grateful for. It could be someone, something, and hear your inner dialogue as you allow a wonderful thought to remind you of what is good in your life. And as you hear that, turn up the volume, increase the feeling and the emotion connected to that wonderful thought. And as you do so, notice that the volume button works the other way around. So I want you to try and think of a negative, intrusive thought. And just as you start to hear that voice, just imagine turning that volume all the way down. And notice, without any sound, there is no evaluation. And without any evaluation, there is no emotion. And in the absence of an emotion, you're able to continue to breathe in that wonderful feeling of resourcefulness. Continue to exhale any echoes of tension, stress, or worries, allowing you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a comfortable sofa that's recognizable to you, but on a beach. You're the only one on that beach, and you're sitting on a sofa looking out at the waves. But I want you to imagine that you're witnessing a sunset. And I want you to imagine that the sun setting is a signal that it's time to feel calmer and more relaxed, drowsy and sleepy. But the setting sun is also a reminder that the past is the past, and that any worries or stresses or regrets or moments of pain from the past is indeed the past, and therefore can remain in the past. When something has happened, it's already finished. So you can never re-experience exactly what happened. You can only create a representation of what happened within your mind and within your imagination. And I want you to notice that it is impossible to feel any emotion linked to the past if you don't think about it. And in the same way that you have that volume button to turn down any inner dialogue to absolute silence, I want you to imagine that you also have a brightness button. So any intrusive or negative thoughts that in the past have made you feel bad, the moment you start to see them, just imagine turning the brightness all the way down so there is nothing to see. And if there is nothing to hear and nothing to see, then there is no emotion to feel, which frees up your mental capacity to think of those things you would like to think about, those things you're grateful for, and those things that are still inspiring and desirable for you. What would you like to do? What haven't you experienced that you would still like to experience? What meal haven't you eaten yet? What location in the world have you not traveled to yet? What new thing could you learn? And as you think positively about the future, notice it unlocks a feeling of inspiration and resourcefulness, meaning that you have the ability to feel deeply relaxed simply by thinking about the future. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that you can slow down your breathing even more, breathing out for longer. And I want you to place one hand on your diaphragm and another hand on your chest. And as you breathe in slowly, notice the hand on your diaphragm starts to rise. And as you exhale, that the hand on your diaphragm starts to go down, giving you confidence that you are breathing from your diaphragm in a slow, rhythmic way. And in doing so, from this point onwards, breathing in this slow, rhythmic way will enable you to drain the anxiety of your past. I want you to imagine there on that beach is a ginormous water tank, perhaps made of steel, and maybe it reminds you of a water tank that you saw from your childhood. Only this water tank is not filled with water. It's filled with anxiety. All this anxiety that's been affecting your sleep and causing these intrusive thoughts is no longer needed. And I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that there is some kind of tap or outlet attached to this giant water tank. And that as you breathe in and breathe out slowly, you can start to see this water tank that represents all of the stress and anxiety of the past draining away into the sea. And let's try that. Breathe in through your nose. But as you exhale, see a liquid of anxiety leaving the water tank, falling into the vast ocean of the sea. And as you see that, you start to feel more relaxed in your body. Your inner dialogue starts to slow down. You breathe more deeply and more relaxed, and you're able to notice tension draining away, not just from the water tank, but from your body. Any tension in your forehead seems to be melting away. Any tension in your jaw feels like it's melting away, just draining away, leaving your body. Arms and legs feeling heavier and heavier, feeling an increasing desire to yawn. And a yawn is an interesting thing because sometimes thinking about yawning, or remembering a time when you yawned, or remembering a time where someone you know yawned, it creates an irresistible desire to yawn yourself. And when you yawn, you can't help but notice that your body relaxes even more. And perhaps on the next inward breath in, you're able to yawn on the outward breath, seeing more of that anxiety draining away from this giant water tank near to the ocean, enabling you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. And not only can you turn down the volume of any inner dialogue, you've got the ability to change the tonality and change the pitch. You could make those negative, intrusive thoughts squeaky. And it's hard to take a squeaky voice seriously. So if a squeaky voice says to you, "You can't sleep," it doesn't have the same impact. And it's so easy to ignore. Or perhaps you could introduce doubt into the tonality of those intrusive thoughts. Instead of your inner dialogue saying, "You can't sleep," what if from this point onwards you changed it to be filled with doubt and uncertainty, saying, "You can't sleep," almost like it's a challenge, inspiring you to unlock and activate all of the resources necessary to lead to a chain reaction where sleep is just inevitable. And doesn't that feel good to unlock those resources to facilitate good quality sleep? I want you to notice that this water tank of anxiety is nearly empty just by breathing in and breathing out. It's nearly all drained away, enabling you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. So I want you to shift your focus to the sky above the beach and just notice a small cloud traveling in the sky. And I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that intrusive and negative thoughts are just passing clouds in the sky. And just like the clouds, they come and they go. And sometimes they block the sunshine, but only momentarily. But they never stay there forever. You can notice the cloud, even find it undesirable that it's blocked the sunshine. But as you continue to observe the cloud, you know it's temporary, that sooner or later the cloud will move, the sun will shine again, allowing the cloud to pass, knowing that clearer skies await. Continue to breathe in and breathe out and notice. Notice that when you try and have a negative, intrusive thought, you have so many options. You can turn down the volume. You can make it squeaky or full of doubt. Or you could just starve it of your attention, allow it to be there, and just like a passing cloud, wait for it to float on by. I want you to remember a time that you were in a room with an echo. And maybe that was recently, or maybe it was many years ago. And if there was a loud noise, or someone shouted or clapped their hands, you would hear a faint replica of that original sound, just an echo, lasting momentarily. And I want you to consider your intrusive or any negative thoughts as just echoes in a vast canyon. If there was a loud noise, they may reverberate initially, but with time, they get quieter and quieter, and just a few seconds later, they've already faded away into the distance. And the only way they can come back is if a new noise is created. So if an intrusive thought is a question, realize that you don't need to answer it. Just allow the thought to be there, getting quieter and quieter until it fades away. Because thoughts are not permanent and they're not defining. They are fleeting and transient. And you can allow them to dissipate naturally, losing their power as they fade into the vastness of the canyon. And you already know this is true because there hasn't been a single time you've held on to a thought that's lasted for any longer than a few seconds. All that's happening is that thoughts keep coming back. So the key question is, are you feeding them with your attention? Are you feeding them by giving them validity? If a stranger in the street was to ask you a question that was nonsensical, does it make sense to engage a stranger in a conversation that could steal you of your energy and your time? Or to acknowledge that you don't have to answer every question and you can continue to just keep walking forward? Thoughts from this point forwards will be like drops of rain, always temporary, sometimes useful, but never damaging and never permanent. All thoughts will now be perceived to be water off a duck's back, raindrops in time that, even if they touch you, will soon just drip away. Breathe in and breathe out and find yourself back there on that beach, on that sofa, feeling more relaxed than you felt in a long time. With so many tools that you can just starve these negative intrusive thoughts, change them, or perhaps redirect them, or turn the volume all the way down. And with so many options, you've got the ability to get good at any one of these things. Treating any intrusive thought from this point onwards as an opportunity to practice all the different ways that you can change those thoughts. Have these thoughts work for you rather than against you. And in doing so, unlock a powerful feeling of optimism, positivity, and relaxation. And then use the power of your imagination to imagine walking into your bed, climbing under the covers, feeling your head on the pillow, and continuing to breathe in and breathe out there from the diaphragm. having an even more intense desire to yawn and stretch and just drift off into a wonderful feeling of sleepy relaxation. And you don't have to sleep, because sometimes with sleep, the harder you try to sleep, the more difficult it is to sleep. But the opposite is also true. Sometimes when you really fight to stay awake, when you're feeling so relaxed and so calm and so comfortable, your eyelids get heavier and heavier. The tension is all leaving your body. And that constant desire to nod off and drift off into a sleep gets stronger and stronger. And it's almost like the harder you try to stay awake, the more sleepy you become. And very soon I want you to imagine drifting off, not into a real sleep, but imaginary sleep. I want you to act as if you're already asleep and you get to choose your dreams. And I want you to dream about all of those things that you feel grateful for, happy about, or optimistic for the future. As you breathe in and breathe out, very soon you will find yourself drifting off into a wonderful feeling of relaxation. And if you're listening to this and you desire to wake up, then I will count from 1 to 10 and you can awaken. But if it's already appropriate for you to drift off into sleep, I will count from 1 to 10 and you will imagine that there is a suggestion that it is safe and reasonable and you have permission to have the best night's sleep of your life. And the part of your brain that knows that sleep is so useful for relaxation, regeneration, healing and repairs will hold on to that idea that you have permission to sleep so deeply. And listening from 1 to 10, you will drift off into that wonderful feeling of so deep relaxation that sleep may just be inevitable. And if you do sleep, or when you sleep, your unconscious mind will only awaken you when your body has got everything it stands to gain from the sleep, and you will eventually awaken full of energy, optimism, and a desire to make the most of each and every day. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and starting to count from 1 to 10. Starting to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.